Justice Department naming a former FBI director, a special counsel to oversee these investigations, a sense of pause, a sense of some calm in markets before the storm, you say?
Yeah, this is the first shoe to drop, the allegations and the publication of those allegations, and anything which is an attempt to bring some kind of natural administrational pause. The appointment of a special investigator, for example, will allow markets to just take a breath and recalibrate exactly whether they should start pricing in impeachment, which they're definitely not at the moment. You know, just taking the DXY, for example, it's back to where Trump was before he was even president-elect. So we are at a point where Trump is still in power, but we're not seeing a torpedo to his administration quite yet.
I like what we go to Bloomberg View each morning, both of us, and Francis Wilkinson wrote a piece this morning saying that Washington is enrolling in Trump University. And that what does it take for Republicans to abandon President Trump? You've still got, the bulwarks of support there behind him. But the markets have a very different interpretation, and that's what's manifest here. This is the bond market. You saw yields drop yesterday. We're seeing positioning here hitting a 10-year high. We're going to get an update on this. Anna and I debated whether we should do the rich list of this at the start. Money's going into bonds, and it's turning into a wall of money.
Yeah, but I think there's the element of Republican support, which is very, very important here, is that the Trump brand is being damaged by these allegations. The White House brand is being damaged, but the Republican brand hasn't been damaged yet. And then that's why Paul Ryan can still stand there and say that he backs the president, he backs the administration, that these allegations are somewhat against the grand ethos of what the Republican, the GOP party are trying to do in Congress. As soon as that turns, then I expect that wall of money to turn, and I'd expect the support from the Trump administration to turn as well. Yeah,
some people seem to think that with this appointment there can be some return to other business. You mentioned Paul Ryan. I mean, he was the one saying that Congress will be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Yeah, okay. My colleague Robert Burgess of the Daily Prophet, who writes for Bloomberg, saying actually no, the market doesn't believe that Congress can walk and chew gum at the same time, and that's why we've seen what's happened.
Yeah, every minute we debate this is a minute away from healthcare. It's away from the wall, and certainly from the market point of view, it's away from tax reform. It's away from the regulatory reform. And as much as the Speaker can stand there and say we are still doing the business of the country, markets have been put off for a couple of months already, waiting for some kind of end game around this. We've heard from Mnuchin that he wanted something done by September, and now it's probably not going to be done by September, and it may be done by the end of the year. There was a lot of faith put in the ability for this administration to get something done in the first 6 months, and at the moment, the first 116, 117 days have showed that they're not getting anywhere close.
Yeah, well, it's been anticipation. I love that line, walk and chew gum at the same time. I thought every American could do that. Now, maybe I'm just sort of Irish. Let's go back to markets, because I'm going to get harangued there over that last line. This is it. This is the proof in the pudding. The window for the Fed to do something seems to be getting shaken. The probability of a rate hike, I said it yesterday, it dropped. We've dropped back. The odds of a June hike have gone to 60% from 80% over a week ago. September's dissipating as well. So this window sort of seems to get narrower as politics, just clunks into the middle of it.
Crashes into it. And the Fed has tried to remain obviously very, very...
above the fray.
Yeah, very apolitical, above the fray for the entire part of the Trump presidency as it stands at the moment. But the first question on every reporter's lips is, does what happens further down the road in Washington impact what happens to you at the Fed? And we're seeing markets are certainly pricing that in at the moment. I still think above 60%, it is still that element of the Federal Reserve still not wanting to surprise markets, and we've spent so much time towards 60% and above 60%, given the improvements that we're still continuing to see in the US jobs market. Yeah, retail sales was pretty awful last week, but industrial production was...
Is 60% still enough? I mean, these markets are paranoid schizophrenic. I mean, if the Fed does anything that they haven't been told 25 times by X number of governors, they get anaphylactic.
They do, and I think that the speeches now that we get from Fed members over the course of the next week are crucial, and that will set the scene for June and probably the rest of the year if the news out of the Trump administration doesn't turn positive or negative. It just stays in this kind of very uneasy cycle.
Could it be one thing to watch? Could be then to what extent do the Fed governors or Fed officials come out and say we weren't counting on any of these policies yet in our forecast?
They haven't talked about them in speeches.
Yeah.
They haven't talked about it in the minutes. They as far as laying out groundwork of expectation, they have not done that. So for them to say we are drastically reducing our dot charts as a result of the fact that he can close a door, that would be very, very strange.